is just say and spell your first and last name for me, please.
Sergeant Mike Jensen, Mikejensen.
Perfect. And your title?
The training sergeant for our training academy.
Okay. Looks good. If you see me ever adjusting this, just keep going on.
Okay.
I'll be just...
Now, am I talking to you or talking to the
yeah,
camera?
you're going to talk right to me.
Okay.
You and I will just be having a conversation. So my first one, pretty general. Once the application process, which takes 1,000 years, is done, what comes next? What happens next if they pass and they're through and they're good?
So once the potential recruits have accepted a job offer, what we'd like to do from the training center is send them an email with some things we want them to start studying before they even get here. So we've got some things like the 100 blocks that have to do with navigation and that orientation for the city. And it's real important for some of those folks that come from out of state and come to us from other places to try and get a head start on learning some of these things. And some are just route memory, meaning it's hard to apply, you just have to memorize the numbers and the letters. And phonetic alphabet's another thing we tell them now. If some of these folks that come from the military already know the phonetic alphabet, but if you've never been exposed to that, it's something they can learn before they get here, and it's one less thing they have to study once they get here, because in 24 weeks, some of these recruits talk about like drinking through a fire hose. We give them so much information, which we do, and they don't retain all of it, but a majority of it they do.
Now, one thing you just said there was if they're out of state, do people ever, and this kind of also probably goes with the application process, but can someone from Ohio apply and not be living here before academy?
They can, and Backgrounds and Recruiting has made arrangements for some of that testing to even be done out of state, I believe. So they can take one of the written tests at a certified testing center, so there are certain requirements to do that testing, but if they pass that, then it can save them from making a trip all the way to Alaska. So they've tried to streamline it, and I believe they have streamlined it. So if you're from out of state and you want to apply with us, you can do some testing out of state, and then eventually you do need to come to Alaska. Like today, they're doing physical agility testing with some candidates, both from Alaska and some from out of state.
Now, the people who are here today, this is just for my own personal knowledge, are they offered a job yet, or this is still part of the application?
Not yet. They're still in the application process. So for these folks that come up from out of state, they're doing several things this week. So hopefully they won't have to make another trip back up here, and we try and, because a plane ticket, most people are coming from at least Seattle, if not other places, to get up here, and it's not cheap.
Got it. Okay, that was just my own personal knowledge. Okay, so what parts of the application process make sure recruits are ready for the academy? Because that's pretty intense, and I imagine you don't just like, hey, it's academy, hey, the applications, and we're going to throw you into academy.
Well, once they get the job offer and they accept the job offer, like I said, we send them information, and we also assign them a mentor. And a mentor is typically another police officer, and they can either reach out to the mentor, or a lot of cases our mentors will reach out to them. It's a voluntary type program, so they get to talk to them about maybe if they don't live in Anchorage, maybe they come from somewhere else in Alaska, where's a good place to rent an apartment or buy a house or that kind of thing. So there is that relationship that they have that they can start working before they get to the academy. But other than that, we send them, like I said, that information or things for them to study before they get here. But then it's day one, they hit the ground running when they show up here.
And how much time between the application to actual first day of academy usually happens?
I don't know that number, and I know that our Backgrounds and Recruiting unit has done a really good job about streamlining the process, so it's not near as long as it used to be. When I went through 20 years ago, there was quite a bit of time. I want to say like 6 months. So I think they've shortened that considerably to try and get the folks that are interested in the door and filling these academies. We haven't had, the last few academies haven't been full, so that would be our goal, is to get qualified applicants in the academy, so we can start with a full academy of 28 would be ideal.
I think one of the girls I interviewed last week said, when you were saying this, April she found out she was accepted or got the job offer, and then whenever academy started, so that's not too long.
Yeah, she must have. So she got the job offer in April?
She's like, I remember getting the call in April.
Yeah, she got the job offer in April, and I think we started in May, so it wasn't that long.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to give me kind of overview, what is Academy?
Well, that's a big question. So this last academy lasted 24 weeks. And we started out with some introduction to some administrative things. What is a union? Here's what union membership means. And then some administrative things like personnel payroll and that kind of getting integrated. Introduction to the chain of command from the staff here to myself and the lieutenant, chiefs, deputy chiefs, and then the chief himself typically talks in the first day, and then I give them expectations. So here's what to expect in the 24 weeks here, and we don't run it like a boot camp, but it's also not like a classroom necessarily all the time. So there are some things that they need to be mindful of, and we talk about the scoring and the grading and how the layout of the academy goes. We work 4 10-hour shifts, so they have 3 days off, and I encourage them to spend that time working on. I tell them that 24 weeks will go by quick, and most of them, I think at that time, are thinking, man, this is going to take forever. But always on the last day with every academy I've had so far, they're like, wow, it's been 24 weeks already, and here we are. They're getting ready to graduate that day, so that's it's always interesting.
Now you said something there about expectations. What are those expectations that you set?
So one of the things I focus on with expectations is that I expect them to work hard. And they don't have to be naturally good with firearms because we'll teach them that. We spoon feed them firearms in every course matter, from search and seizure to how to testify in court using a moving radar, those type things. There's just a wide variety of things they need to know before they leave here. And we try and give them all that information obviously before they hit field training, and that's what this group just graduated. Now they're on to field training. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. And then there's expectations on their performance, working hard, obviously shining their boots, wearing the uniform, and for some of them that's brand new. If they don't come from the military, maybe they've never shined a boot before. So we teach them how to do that stuff, and then we also try and build them together. They develop as a class. So, and we encourage that team participation, and you see them starting to bond after a certain amount of time and helping each other out, and they form study groups and that kind of thing, and it really helps them throughout the academy.
Now, one thing you said, on different segments, classes, what have you, like search and seizure, that was one that stuck out to me. I'm guessing you guys probably have someone come in from that kind of unit. How long, tell me about how long do you focus on one specific area?
Well, and it's really a juggle. And one thing we do, so we'll talk about search and seizure. So we will pull someone. My staff is subject matter experts in a lot of different areas, but we can't be subject matter experts in every area. So there's a lot of instructors throughout the department that are very skilled instructors that are very good at a specific area. They're good in general, but then they have a specialty where they teach. And I'll use traffic as an example. So members of our traffic unit typically come and teach the OUI, operating under the influence class. It's a 40-hour block, and so they come in and they teach that. So my staff's not involved near as much during that week, and so they get all that information from the guys that are doing it day in and day out every day and are certified in teaching those techniques. So in all kinds of different disciplines, but I'm fortunate on my staff to have some very skilled instructors that can do a lot of that work. But we do use officers and detectives from different units to help assist us. And of course it takes away from their manning, so it's always a balancing act trying to get them out of their unit or off the street for a certain amount of time to teach the new officers what the job is, so we can get them the best education we can get them before they hit FTO, and then it's up to their field training officers to give them the practical side of it when they're on the street and working in the car. So it's kind of a balance there.
It can really be 40 hours per topic.
Well, it really depends. Some classes are 1 hour. They may get 1 hour just an overview. So say crisis negotiations or SWAT. None of them are going to become SWAT officers the minute they leave here, but we'll give them a 1 hour block on this is SWAT. This is what the SWAT team is. It's comprised of these main members. This is what the SWAT team will expect from you. If you're on a call that requires SWAT, understand that you may be holding a perimeter until you're relieved by the SWAT team, and this is just how it works. So they just get a brief overview on some classes, and then other classes where it's very important, search and seizures, one we talked about already, arresting an intoxicated driver, those classes are going to get more time on that because they're going to use it day in and day out, interview, interrogation. These are very fundamental skills that every police officer needs to know. Firearm skills, day one, hopefully they don't need those skills, but they need to have those when they leave here. Defensive tactics, and we teach them how to talk to folks also, de-escalate situations and use their voice and their mind and talking to folks, basically talking folks down so we don't have to use force, or if we do, we have to use the lowest, we'll use the lowest amount of force necessary to gain compliance. But all those things, and then we go through some reality-based training scenarios with them where they get to apply those. And as we get later in the academy, we start to evaluate a little bit more than where we teach all the way through the academy. But at the end, near the end, we do some more evaluation and kind of see where they're at and kind of give them a little bit more of a leash to perform, and then we get to evaluate them, and if there's issues, we remediate those and work on them in those certain areas. And then at the end of every academy, one of my favorite days is the last day, of course, because of graduation, so that's why it's my favorite day, but it's also because I'm really proud of them. It's really a neat thing to watch them stand up there and raise their right hand and swear to the oath. But we give them an opportunity before that to talk to us about what they think about the academy, and some of them don't know what they don't know yet, but I'm still interested to hear from them on what they think can be done better. We go through the schedule, and I basically go through all the courses, not every hour-long class or half-hour class, but the bigger blocks of instruction, the bigger disciplines, and I ask them, do you think you had enough time? Do you think you want more time here? And we've taken that through the academies, and so when we build the next schedule, we try and make it better every time, and we use their feedback because they're the end user. And then once they go to field training, and they come back where they have 6-8 months on the street on their own, then we'll ask them again, what do you think now? Do you think, could you have used more time in orientation, or was that plenty? Did we spend too much time on it? Because we want to hear from them, because we want to keep improving. And I think we've done that. We've been successful in that end.
Sure, I know. It reminds me a little bit of the Citizens Academy, because every week we have, it's not on the same scale, but evaluations, what do you think we can make better? Totally get that. And I think from what you just told me, it's safe to say an emphasis is probably placed in academy more on things you could be doing right away in your field training, and then once you're going to be on patrol. Right.
And there's certain topics that honestly we've looked at that we could give them all kinds of time on collision investigations in the academy, sitting at a desk behind a desk, and we could have them fill out this form 10 different times and take a lot of time. And I'll tell you, every single instructor wants more time. There's not a single instructor that says, I want less time for my class. They all want more. And that's part of my job, is to look at that and evaluate how much time they're going to get. Because it's a lot easier being in a car, being out on the slick roads like there are today, looking at the physical evidence, talking to witnesses, and actually doing it with a field training officer. That topic is much easier taught in the car than it is sitting behind the desk. Orientation, we talked about that one. That's much easier, and we've thought about getting a people mover bus, see if we could get one and take it out of commission for a day, put the recruits on it and drive around and show them how the city's broken down. And we used to spend more time in the academy doing just looking at maps and that sort of thing, but it's much easier taught in the car. So now there's a balance between the two. They need to leave knowing some basic orientation and how the city's oriented, north, south, east, west, and all these different things. Never eat shredded wheat, I tell them, so they can remember if they don't know their directions. So there's a balance between that and how they work in the car. So those two things together, and typically they put them together. And everyone learns differently too. So that's a balancing act also, is trying to teach at a level, and our instructors are very good at it, so everyone gets it. And if they don't, we have an opportunity to work with them more.
Perfect. Is there any particular thing that you wish could be given more time, or maybe something that the members of the academy who've gone through it always said, I wish I had more time? Is there one specific thing that they're always like, I wish I was able to learn more about that?
Not any one specific topic. I'll tell you what a big What all the recruits typically say at the end of the academy is they want more time in reality-based training. There's some really important lessons, so we have to very carefully pick what our learning objectives are when we go through reality-based training, and typically they're the bigger topic areas. And so I think they end up learning a lot in reality-based training. They learn some very important lessons, and if they don't do it correctly, we put them back through the scenario again. And it's very realistic. They're wearing protective gear. They don't know if it's going to be a situation where they may use force, or they may simply talk to someone. They may arrest someone, and we'll ask them, if there was a crime, what would you charge? What would you charge? A state charge? Would you charge a municipal charge? Would you take this person into custody? How would you do it? And a lot of it they act through. And then a lot of those, they actually write a report at the end as well, just like they'll do on the street. So they really like that time. It's very labor intensive and time intensive for us because it takes role players, and role players are very key in making that be successful. So, and they need to stick to the script, and our role players are very good at that because they know what the learning objectives are, and they know what to say and what branch to take if the officer recruit makes a certain decision. So.
Now, I think that's a great segue because I want to ask you a little bit about that since I was with you on a couple of those. Is the earlier parts, I mean, you don't get into reality-based training until later in academy. That's not something you're doing in May or June like this academy.
So we'll work into it. We start, and the interesting thing about reality-based training, we give them, we never put them into a